Welcome to CoatingsCast, the ultimate podcast dedicated to the science, art, and innovation of liquid and fluid applied roofing, coatings for surfaces, and waterproofing. It's time to roll up our sleeves, put on our lab coats, and dive headfirst into the world of liquid protection that keeps your roofs and surfaces in prime condition. The future is here, and it's liquid, so don't miss out. This is CoatingsCast, where every drop counts in the world of roof and surface protection. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to CoatingsCast from coatingscoffeeshop.com. I'm your host, Megan Ellsworth, and today I'm here with my friend John from KARNAK, and we're going to be talking about trends and challenges faced by coatings manufacturers right now, what's hot in the industry right now. So before we get into the heavy hitters, John, hi, can you introduce yourself?
Oh, thanks, Megan. Thanks for having KARNAK and myself again. My name's John McDermott. Everyone, I'm the Vice President of Sales of the KARNAK Corporation. I joined KARNAK in 1997. I am a roofer by trade. Started with the DC Taylor Company in 1986. We'll shout out to DC Taylor. And I've had various sales roles after my roofing days, and then started with KARNAK in 1997 as a Midwest Regional Manager. And 28 years later, here I am, and it's been a really, really great ride with a really, really great company.
That's amazing. Wow, that is a really great ride with a great company, going from regional sales to VP. That's awesome. Well, so John, let's get into the nitty-gritty here. What are trends you're seeing in restoration, and how do you think they will affect the industry going forward?
Well, there's quite a lot, and it comes from both sides. There is let's say from the owner side, there's a very large push for sustainability. When I started at KARNAK 28 years ago, I don't think that word was in Webster's. That's become a household word now in the roofing restoration business, is sustainability, just in roofing in general.
So true.
And the other trend is that the roofing contractors have advanced. They really have graduated to a higher level of competency in fluid applied restorations, and really specific to the roofers and why they're steering this trend. There's a very well described problem with labor in our workforce for roofing contractors and other construction trades alike. And you can do roof restoration with fewer staff, men and women, and you can get more done and can be very profitable. So if you're really short on labor, the restoration is a much simpler play for a contractor versus being faced with a very labor intensive tear off or some project like that. So past that, the manufacturers, I would say, are steering the trend in that I think we've gotten better at producing products. I know that we're far better, and I'm just talking about the industry in general, KARNAK and others. There's some great products out there, and they're far better than they were when I started in this business. And in addition to that, they've also, I think we've all gotten better, many of us, not all of us, gotten better at putting the systems together. And I'm going to say this a couple of times during our chat here today, Megan. In order for a restoration system to have any value, it has to last. In order to last, it's got to be put together well to avoid various pitfalls.
Yep.
So the other, obviously the cost of re-roofing is the other trend that's guiding restoration, and the cost of re-roofing is so high. I mentioned the labor situation before, but beyond the labor situation, you've got energy codes which are requiring enormous amounts of insulation on these roofs if in fact you're re-roofing. Well, when you do that, not only do you have to pay for the insulation and the labor to take it off and all that other stuff, but then you have to raise the curbs and you have to raise the perimeter flashings, and everything combined just makes that far less affordable than a restoration system where none of that has to happen.
Yep.
And one other thing from the owner's side, perhaps I would say in the last 5 years, especially, I think it's well known there's been a lot of economic uncertainty The
Exactly.
rise and fall of the stock market and everything else, and tariffs and supply chain shortages and inflation and the interest rates. So there's a lot of economic uncertainty, and re-roofing may not fit into that owner's budget. So that's a trend that will take us to restoration, and something that restoration could solve.
Yep. Yeah, it really can solve, and that goes back again to that sustainability. So especially if an owner is, they see that big number for the re-roof, and they're
Mhm.
trying to be, environmentally conscious. Restoration is an obvious answer then, for sure.
Mhm.
So how does a legacy producer like KARNAK assess and adapt to these trends as you guys grow?
Well, we just provide what the market needs.
Yeah.
That sounds really simple, right? Yeah, it's not so simple. I'm going to cite an example. 28 years ago, we were restoring modified bitumen roofs and built-up roofs, and I want to leave metal out of this discussion for right now because it's a sort of a different animal when it comes to restoration and much simpler. So low slope roofing, modified and built up. You had two options. You want white, you want silver, maybe three up. You want black? Okay. We had great options for those. Adhesion was
Mhm.
fine. And then along comes the advent of, the single ply revolution, I would call it, and it's taken over whatever 75% of the commercial roofing market, and that really has directed what manufacturers have to do and products they have to develop. It wasn't that we developed something that was going to work for that long before it was there. They came
Right.
out, now they need restoration. Whatever we were putting on 10, 15, 20 years ago is what we're restoring now. So um, we had to develop products not only that adhered to those, because there weren't necessarily canned products that adhered to those different substrates. We also had to develop products and get code compliances and UL and FM compliances with those different substrates as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of it's steered from what the market is putting on as to what manufacturers needed to do. And then, beyond that, we have to have a connection to every single buying influence in the market. And we have to be asking them questions and finding challenges. And when I say buying influences, we consider that, from our business standpoint, the roofing contractor, the specifier, the distributor, and the building owner. It all starts with the building owner and what challenges they're facing. What is the pain that they have, and that's a roof that's failing or getting old, and they need to make a financial decision on that.
Yeah.
We have to ask a lot of questions, find out where the challenges are, and address all those. The compliances and regulations is a real daunting task. There's so much red tape these days when it
Yeah,
comes.
I bet.
Yeah, I know it's just a lot, and it's energy codes, and it's fire ratings, and it's just
Yep.
general regulations, and that just requires a major ongoing R&D investment and a major ongoing investment in people as well. Um, KARNAK people have to be really proficient. I use these four words, and we strive to get there with every one of our people. Extremely competent expert advisor. When someone calls KARNAK, if we have the correct answer, the correct recommendation, and we are technically sound, then we get that next call from that contractor or whoever it might be,
Yeah.
building owner. So it's super, super important that we are extremely competent expert advisors.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Okay, so with some of the challenges you mentioned, how does Karnak address them while keeping their contractors in mind and keeping that process flowing for the contractor?
It's just education, and I want to say this: I'm thankful for the ownership at KARNAK, Sarah Jelland, and all of our executive staff
Yeah.
that we continue to make a great investment in education, and we're allowed to do whatever we want, and spend what we need to properly train contractors and distributors and owners alike. A couple of specific programs we have that we've invested in heavily is the KARNAK Qualified Applicator Program, and that is a network of contractors that are qualified to put our systems on. And the training modules for that is almost a whole day of hands-on and classroom, and then there's ongoing trainings that we'll do later at 2.0. And there's quite an investment in doing that. And that's really technically detailed about getting the job done right, making sure we're selecting the roof properly and we're not putting a coating on a roof that should not be coated, and all those types of things. Proper surface preparation is key. There's another very much simpler one, easier to get to, and that's the KARNAK University, and that's an online training program that's excellent. There's 16 modules. It's not the deep technical dive that the KQA is,
Yeah.
but it's great for people getting started in the maybe just getting started in the low slope business. It could be an associate at a distributor that only knows residential or comes to us from outside the industry. And anybody that joins a roofing contracting company. We have contracting companies and their entire service departments, 20, 30 people have been put through the KARNAK University. It's a self-guided tour, 16 courses. They're only 5 to 12 minutes each. And at the end of it, you do it in order. And at the end of it, you get a certificate, KARNAK Certified Restoration Advisor, and you get this nice collegiate theme drinking cup, KARNAK University.
I love it. That's awesome.
Each thing's cold and hot for a very long time. We also have a mobile app that is just a great resource where you can plug in various bits of information. It'll spit out a specification for you on that type of roof that you're working on. It also is really easy to get to data sheets, safety data sheets, anything you might need, and as well as to contact KARNAK staff locally. Our faces and our phone numbers and our emails are right on there.
Yeah.
We have many other training programs, and getting back to your original question, how do we do this with the contractors in mind? And it's just training. It's a lot. And we have many other modules. We have modules on how to sell restoration systems to the building owner and what you need to share with them, the financial gains and everything else. And not all of it is what KARNAK says. There's a lot of great third-party information on this. We have whole modules on evaluating a roof for consideration to make sure we're not proposing a restoration on this roof where we know it's not going to work. So we have a great module on that. And we have a CEU course on doing roof inspections with a purpose. It's sort of generic. It's not about KARNAK. But we have many different modules like that we're happy to provide in person, online for anybody that wants them.
Yeah, that's so huge to be able to work with a manufacturer that really cares about, extending the knowledge base of their contractors and new hires with a part of the contractor or new hire to KARNAK. That's to me just shows that you all really care about not only your customers but your employees and the industry as a whole, wanting to further that knowledge across the board. That's huge. So, and I didn't know about the KARNAK app. So that is really exciting to learn myself.
All right.
Love that. So, okay, can you kind of tell us about the behind the scenes relationships that a manufacturer needs to have to stay adaptable and pliant and future focused in the industry right now?
Well, a lot of it is, I'm going to go back to people again. You have to have a willingness to invest. You just can't stay the same in this business. It doesn't matter. You have to have a willingness to invest. And number one is in people. Every time we add $2 or $3 million in restoration coating sales, we actually need another person just to do everything that we say we're going to do. We tell the roofers what we're going to do for them. And in order to do that, they come to us with a lot of work like that. Every time we add, those levels of sales, then we need more staff to actually do it, to make sure we're doing it timely and make sure we have properly trained, extremely competent expert advisors. Remember that one?
Yep.
And you also have to have the willingness to invest in technology. The mobile app was a big investment in technology, and also the investment in research and development to to make sure we're keeping up with compliances, make sure we have proper adhesion to all substrates so that we can
Yep.
really serve our client, our contractor clientele. And then, previously mentioned, I think I mentioned industry participation, or if I didn't, we are deep in roofing trade associations. We have volunteer positions in nearly every one of them, regionally and nationally.
Yeah.
The Roof Coating Manufacturers Association, the RCMA. Chris Salazar, who is our chief operating officer, he's a past president of the RCMA. It's a very important group in our industry. Chris Hudig, who is the vice president of technical services and client relations, he's just a recent past president of the RCMA, and we're very, very active in that. And then that's just a group of our peers, and it's super important to staying future focused, and the industry helps us spot the future trends.
Yeah, it really does, and being a part of those trade associations is so pivotal to, I think, a company's, performance and just how they are able to connect with the contractors too. They're they have a pulse on
Yeah,
the industry and what's going on and the economy and, being a part of those trade associations, you just you get the gossip, you get all the info from across the country.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, are there ways manufacturers like KARNAK can kind of steer trends in directions that are less disruptive for contractors and the industry as a whole?
Well, regarding that, I just have one example for you. How about that?
Yeah.
There's a fairly significant legislation passed in Florida that was really damaging to the roofing business in general, but the coatings industry, where they weren't allowing coatings on certain types of commercial buildings,
Yeah.
and it wasn't well done. As we know, sometimes they pass things in these legislatures that aren't well thought out. It happens, right?
Right.
Um, and Karnak and other manufacturers led the charge and formed a coalition, and they joined some roofing contractors, manufacturers that all had their interests aligned, and are have been to Tallahassee to make sure that the legislators know what sort of negative impact they're having on the industry, and
Yeah.
on not on the industry, but what they're doing to those people that live in those buildings, or those owners that own those buildings, and what kind of cost they're passing on to them that doesn't need to be. And
Mhm.
it's really hurting. It's really hurting like people in condominiums. So um, that's one way we can steer a trend, is fighting different legislation that doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's just my
Mhm.
one example there.
Yeah, and also being on top of new code standards and being on top of, like you said, those legislative efforts,
Yeah.
similar to kind of what NRCA does. I believe they even have like a lobbyist that, goes to bat for the roofing industry. So that's really important. So, how can contractors work with their manufacturers to stay on the cutting edge of roof restoration?
Well, I would say, if you're a roofing contractor, be very selective and or not hire a partner with a reputable, stable manufacturer. Let's say one that's been around 92 years. Oh, okay. All right.
Hmm.
I think that's a good minimum, 92 years. That way we know. Okay. And more importantly, and I had to say that, a manufacturer that has great training resources. We've beat it to death earlier. We beat it to death every day at KARNAK.
Yeah.
Manufacturers have great training resources and great people that can help you, and also manufacturers that have invested in the compliances. You don't want to get in trouble on a job where you put the product on and it's not in compliance with some regulatory agency. So make sure you're with a manufacturer that can, not only tell you what you need to do, but help you get it done. And
Yeah.
you can also, visit Roofer's Coffee Shop, and I know they have a lot of resources there that they can provide.
Exactly. You go to rooferscoffeeshop.com, coatingscoffeeshop.com, go to the RCMA Association's website, go to NRCA to stay on the cutting edge. It's so easy when you work with a manufacturer like KARNAK to kind of stay up on what's going on in the industry because they're so involved. So definitely working with a 92-year-old company is very important. And also just being on top of the trends is so important as a contractor these days with everything that's rapidly changing in our industry. So, John, thank you so much for chatting with me today. This was a blast.
Thank you. Thank you, and have a great weekend.
Absolutely. You too. Everyone out there listening, please go to rooferscoffeeshop.com and coatingscoffeeshop.com to learn more. Check out the KARNAK directory, see every other podcast and webinar and article they've done with us because it's a lot. And definitely, John, what's your website?
KARNAKcorp.com. That's KARNAKcorp.com.
Amazing. You can also find that website on coatingscoffeeshop.com. So thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time on the next CoatingsCast. Thanks for joining us on this coding adventure. Stay tuned for more episodes, and in the meantime, be sure to follow us on social media to stay updated with all things roof coatings. Until next time, stay coated. For more information, go to coatingscoffeeshop.com.